Hi guys, welcome. In today's video, I am going to share with you 5 tips to help make your cakes look professional. Tip number 1, plan your cake out. Grab your sketchbook, sketch it out, do all the measurements that you need to do. Make sure you take into consideration the amount of servings that you're gonna need. You measure how big your cake is gonna be so you can know how big the board is gonna be. I also recommend, when I do this, I also do a timeline, and that way I plan out my week. So if I know the size that my board needs to be, then I know that when I'm at the store, I can pick up all the boards and I know the sizes and I can be prepared. By the time at the last minute, all you have to do is bake your cake and you have everything ready. Next tip is allow your decorations to dry, give them time. Okay, so I have seen so many times some beautiful cakes and people did not give their decorations enough time to dry, so by the time they are at the party, they're all droopy. So for example, a bow like this, it needs some days to dry. So if you haven't planned out your cake and last minute you're trying to do this, then it will not look very professional. So allow yourself time to do all the toppers, all the flowers, and whatever needs to be done ahead of time, do it ahead of time. That way, last minute, just your baking and your final decorations and your cake is as fresh as can be. See, this sword was half it coming out like that. It needed time to dry. So now it's perfectly dry, and I live in Florida. No matter how hot it is outside, this is gonna be okay for at least several hours. Tip number 3, accents and details. So I do find that the more details that you add to your cake and the prettier your accents are, the more professional your cake looks. So for example, always have a pretty border. For this cake, I chose to do the fondant gum balls, which kids love. They go crazy for these balls. And that is also something you can do ahead of time. So at the very end, you already have all your balls ready and you just glue them around the cake. Another thing that I love is little accents sticking out of the cake. Like for example here, I'm not done with these, but I made all these stars and then I'm gonna paint them and add some glitter to them, and they're gonna go on top of a cake. They just give a little extra cuteness to the cake, and it makes it look a lot more professional. Oh, another thing you can do for borders is always think pretty. A pretty border makes it better. So you can use a clay extruder, you can do a little twirl around, you can just pipe pearls. So whatever you do, just make sure that it looks good. Number 4, presentation. So important. If you want your cake to look professional, then you need to present it like a professional. So one of my favorite things is covering cakes with scrapbook paper. Covering the boards with scrapbook paper. It makes the board always look taken care of. I've seen so many pretty cakes with just a foil board, and it makes me feel like, oh, I wish they would have paid a little attention to that. Another idea, when I work with fondant, I always cover my boards matching fondant pattern. For example, here, you see, I made stripe pattern for this cake. I love making my boards look like wood. I cover them in fondant and then distress them with a brush, and that also looks really professional. But just whatever you do, just don't ignore that board. The board is part of your cake. Boxes. The packaging is the first thing your client or your friend or whoever you're giving the cake to is going to see. So make sure it's a clean box. Make sure that whatever you're putting in there fits in there. If you need to pack some cookies or something, buy a pretty box for it. That always makes something look a lot more professional from the start. And tip number 5, always work with a chilled cake. A lot of people are afraid to put their cakes in the fridge because then they will sweat. And yes, fondant might sweat, but you don't add the fondant till the end. So there's no reason why when you're covering your cake in fondant that it should not be chilled. It makes a humongous difference. If you want to get some nice, perfect, smooth angles, it has to be chilled. So don't forget to chill your cake. All right, so those are the 5 top tips that I have for you. If any of you have any other tips that you would like to share with all of us, please do so on the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. And thank you so much for watching.